Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Long time no hear. It is I, the algo capitalist, aka the Vulcan, coming to you live from PulseWaveTrading.com, home of the world famous Pulsewave price trigger reports. We have a lot to talk about this morning. It's been a while since I have done a pre-market Pulsewave report on a Monday. If you missed Sunday's pre-market pulse wave report, you're going to definitely want to go ahead and listen to that right after you listen to this one. All right, so today is Monday, June the 13th. And I felt the need to do this because I think that people are a little confused and need some type of explanation for what's happening. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to get into some meat and potatoes this morning. First things first, let's take a look at these markets. That's what we're going to do. We're going to take a look at the markets, and I'm going to give you some explanations as to what is occurring, what you may have heard in the mainstream media already, etc., etc., etc. First and foremost, let's take a look at the crypto market. And we're going to start with looking at Bitcoin first. You can see here on the chart, this is a daily chart of Bitcoin. And I warned way ahead of this move that the bearish pointer from right here on May the 12th was going to be taken out. And I said it was going to be done sooner rather than later and that it was imminent. I told you that 2 weeks ago. People thought I was crazy. Didn't know what I was talking about because they saw this 3-day action and said, no, he's wrong. He doesn't know what he's talking about. This is it. This is the bottom. Bitcoin to the moon. And I said, not so fast. Bitcoin is about to implode. Well, if you were a subscriber to the Pulsewave report, you see this green on the screen? Right now, we're up 23.52% on our Bitcoin shorts, and we're up 44.21% on our Ethereum shorts. This is what I've been preaching for a decade on YouTube now. Why you need the Pulsewave reports in your life. You can't go by the mainstream media. Yes, true, we do need fundamental econometric type analysis. It's helpful, but you still can't trade off of it. You can make investment decisions, but you can't trade off of it. You can't trade off of Bloomberg and CNBC or Fox Business. All right, you just can't. You need the Pulsewave reports, ladies and gentlemen. This is what we do. I put out these reports on thousands of securities, Sunday through Thursday, letting you know what you can expect within the next 24 hours. That's the purpose of the Pulsewave reports. All right. So I had to show you these results because some people, they don't listen. They don't want to hear. So you have to show them the green on the screen. All right. This could have been you if you were a subscriber. We would have told you the precise price to enter the market. That's right. Price and time can be married, but only with algorithms, because that's what's doing battle in the market today. This is a battle of wills. And in order to make it, you need to know how these algorithms work. You need to know how the mainstream media manipulates the thoughts of its listeners to align with the super funds out there, the private equity funds, the sovereign wealth funds out there. That's what the talking media does. The mainstream media cheerleads their perspective and positions to get the retail person to take the opposite end of their trades. Make no mistake, it's the big money, the big funds that actually move markets. All right. And as a retail spec, the best that you can hope to do is to ride their coattails, is to swim with the waves of the market, hence the pulse wave report. All right. This is very important for you guys to know going forward. For those that have been on the fence and haven't made that decision to go to pulsewavetrading.com and handle your business, this is your wake up call. You are missing out on an income stream for yourself that is quite passive. It only requires about 5-10 minutes of your time a day, and that's it. Now, I'm not going to just leave you with this because we just don't do cryptos. We do Forex, we do futures, we do stocks, you name it, we do it. The next thing I want to show you is very interesting as well. You know, I have been on YouTube for quite some time, over a decade now. And I like to explain why we do things. Well, those that have been students with me and have been with me, for a while will know that when you have a parabolic morning, a Black Monday morning, what happens is the market likes to retrace right before the open and leading into the open. And then depending on the strength of that bear market move, the market will then try to test the lows and even take them out and then rally. If the market doesn't rally into the close today, it will definitely rally on Tuesday. Now we have a Fed incident coming up on Wednesday. So whenever the Fed is going to be making decisions on rates or speaking to the public or addressing the Senate Finance Committee or whatever, you could expect markets to react. Now, this is off the books. This is just knowledge and experience. So I went along the Russell right before I went on the air here, and I went along the Bitcoin futures and the Ethereum futures and the NASDAQ futures and the Dow futures. Little teeny nibble, little nibblet positions, and they're already in the green, as you can see here. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is possible to make money going long while the market is falling. And this is how you do it. See, if I would have told you and not showed you, you wouldn't believe me, but the proof is in the pudding. Here you go right here. You could have done this too. I teach all of this stuff. Now, let's move on to the next thing. Let's take a look at a snapshot of what the market is doing. See, we don't just tell you at Pulsewave Trading, we show you. We lead by example. We're chefs that eat our own cooking. Now, let's go over these markets. You'll notice that the US dollar index this morning is up 17 pips at 104.64. The euro, however, is down 50 pips at 105.35. And it will stay down all day and close in the red. How in the world can you say that? How do you know that? Well, because we have a bearish two-bar Charlie setup this morning on the euro currency futures. The pound sterling is down 107 pips at 122.17. There's no two-bar Charlie, but chances are it's going to end in the red as well. The Aussie is down 67 pips at 69.90. And yes, we have a bearish two-bar Charlie setup on the Aussie. And yes, it will be down all day and it will close in the red for today. If you recall last week, when I educated you on there's a 1% chance with two-bar Charlie setups that the market will reverse and violate the two-bar Charlie setup. That happens about 1% of the time. 99.9% of the time, it's going to go the way of the two-bar Charlie setup. So just FYI. For those new members of the Pulsewave Report, if you go to your dashboard and go to the Education tab, you can see the tutorials on the 2-bar Charlie setup and how you can use that to guide your trading. Bitcoin futures are down $4,840 right now at $24,080 after bouncing off the overnight low of a whopping $23,400. Ouch. Taking a look at the Ethereum futures, down 421 points right now at $1,242.50 after bouncing off of an overnight low of $1,176. Ouch. Crude oil right now is trying to make its mind up. Does it want to pull back and start correcting at this $120 price or what? It seems that 120 is some type of a psychological barrier for crude oil futures right now. Every time it hits around that 120 mark, it starts to have problems. Well, today's no different. Right now, the crude oil is down $1.66 at $119.01 per barrel after bouncing off an overnight low of $118 even. Looking at nat gas, it's off 6 cents at $8.79 after hitting a low of $8.49. Isn't that interesting? Also, I failed to mention that both crude oil futures and the Ethereum futures both have a bearish 2-bar Charlie setup for the day, so they should both end in the red today and be down all day. Moving on to silver. Actually, gold. I'm sorry, I skipped over gold. Gold right now is down $24.60 at $1,850.90 an ounce after bouncing off of a low of $18.50.40. So it's right near those lows right now. It's about 40 cents off the low as we speak. Silver is at down 32 cents at $21.60 per ounce. Overnight low so far is $21.40, so it's about 20 cents off of its low. The Dow futures is down 520 points right now at 30,839, and the overnight low is at 30,704. So we're off those lows. The E-mini NASDAQ 100 is down 316.5 points at 11,553.25. Overnight low is 11,457. The E-mini S&P 500 futures is down 80.5 points at 38.20 even. Overnight low was 37.98.5. Looking at the Russell My Hustle, it's down 38.5 points at 1762.10. Overnight low 1749.90. The long bond is down a full point in 730 seconds at 143 and 1330 seconds. Overnight low is 134 and 230 seconds. Now, this should tell you something as well, that something is wrong, not just with the financial markets, but with the U.S. economy as a whole. Bonds and gold are historically both flights to safety. It's the risk-off trade. All right, people will exit the stock market when the stock market is down and either go into cash or put money into bonds or gold, because those are the safe havens in a downed market. But today, what you are experiencing is all the markets crashing simultaneously. You got crypto down, precious metals down, and bonds all being down simultaneously, and not just a little bit, but down big. There is nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Even taking a look at your food, soybeans down 19.5 cents at $17.26 per bushel. Overnight low was $17.22 per bushel. Corn is up 2.25 cents at $7.75 a bushel, and wheat is up 3 cents at $10.74 per bushel. Once again, you got bonds, precious metals, equities, and crypto all down together simultaneously and down with a vengeance. I don't know if you can see this quote screen I have up for you, but yes, this is not supposed to happen. According to your Harvard School of Business or whatever school of business you went to and got your MBA, what did your professor tell you? What did your textbooks tell you? This is not the way it's supposed to be. The correlation of the markets have been all but destroyed. Bonds are not a safe haven right now for you. Neither is precious metals. Neither is crypto. Everything is crashing simultaneously. That is not supposed to ever happen unless something is sick. The patient is sick. The patient is sicker than they first let on. The patient is in grave danger. Let's take a look at some of the business news to see if we can get some kind of explanation as to what's going on. And by the way, this is the lowest level in the crypto market since 2020. As you know, Bitcoin fell to 23,000 this morning after fresh inflation concerns had investors fearing that the Federal Reserve could act more aggressively to control soaring prices. Bitcoin's fall was part of a wider crypto market sell-off. In the last 24 hours, Ethereum has also created almost 18% to 1205, according to CoinDesk data. As you know, it dropped below that to 1176. But it's not just rising inflation spooking crypto investors. One of the largest crypto lenders, Celsius Network, announced Sunday it was pausing all customer withdrawals. Due to extreme market conditions, today we are announcing that Celsius is pausing all withdrawals, swap, and transfers between accounts, Celsius said in a statement. The news exacerbated the decline of cryptocurrencies and prompted the price of the Celsius token to fall as much as 60%. Perhaps the biggest carnage has been in the crypto space, which is on the verge of a reckoning now that the gloves are off around global inflation and the realities of a new world order where fixed interest actually pays a yield, albeit one still deepens negative in real terms, said a senior market analyst at O&A. All right. U.S. stock futures fell early on Monday as stronger than expected inflation sent shockwaves through markets. On deck today, Trinity Biotech PLC, Oracle, and Lifeway Foods all reporting. Also, the first NFT collection created by Ringo Starr will be offered at auction today. Jack Dorsey believes the 28-year-old crypto CEO who inspires Jack Dorsey broke down his analysis of Bitcoin. Prior to Bitcoin's plunge over the weekend, Jack Mallers, the CEO of Strike, cited a specific equation as part of why there's hope for the world's biggest crypto by market cap. Wishful thinking. The US dollar and crude oil have just broken off from a key historical trade link. Usually, when the dollar strengthens, commodities get cheaper. But now the opposite is happening. And economists broke down why this makes for a double whammy for global markets. They always come way after the fact to try to explain what's happening. They can't tell you ahead of what's happening because they don't have the pulse waves. See, if they had the pulse waves, then these economists would be on point. But now you see why they're struggling. Kathy Wood's ARK investment said Zoom could see 1,750% upside if hybrid works takes over. In-office mandates from employers will likely fuel high rates of attrition among staffers, which is the opposite of what companies want. The stock just surpassed Tesla as the fund's biggest holding. It's really sad that Kathy Wood's ARC funds have been getting decimated. And what's even more sadder is that there's not an inverse fund to be able to short those and make money while those prices are falling. Russia's war on Ukraine has caused global companies $59 billion in losses amid sanctions and hasty exits. Nearly 1,000 Western businesses have committed to exiting completely from Russia or slashing some businesses there, the Wall Street Journal reports. The CEO of this classic Berkshire Hathaway business explained why Warren Buffett's backing gives him an edge over the rivals. The furniture rental company's lender offered a rare glimpse inside a Buffett conglomerate. There's no question that the economy has peaked, according to a research firm head who used to be Morgan Stanley's equity strategy chief. Americans have never felt this bad about the economy. The University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index cratered from 58.4 to 50.2 in an early June reading. That marks the lowest level since regular data collection began in the 1970s. Ladies and gentlemen, please understand this. The U.S. government has gone incognito, missing in action, flying under the radar. They realized that in order to take the next step in sealing the New World Order agenda, they have to do it by proxy. So, you know how the U.S. government employs different agencies by way of bids, with federal government contracts. So the government has a long, history of hiring mercenary outfits and things of that nature to do its dirty work for it, since the government itself can't do it. So what has happened is the U.S. government has employed also financial companies. Fortune 500 companies also now can act as proxies for the U.S. government. So the U.S. government says we want to, put tariffs on Russia. They know they don't have any ability to do that. So what they do is they use big major Fortune 500 companies to do it for them. And what do they get for doing that? That's where the backroom deals are made. The government says, hey, tell you what, we'll give you a tax credit benefit, or we'll make sure that in upcoming legislation we'll put in laws and rules in there to allow you to capitalize and maintain your market share. We'll make it impossible for any new company startups to come in and steal market share from you. We will do that for you. We will cement your position as an industry leader in your space if you will do our bidding quietly and obediently. Because you have to think about it. Why else would a for-profit company, a publicly traded company at that, grossly disrespect its investors that it's supposed to be turning a profit for by saying, forget the tens of millions or billions of dollars we're making doing business with Russia. We're gonna cut off that financial inflow, and we're gonna suffer, billions of dollars in losses for doing so. But we're gonna do it because we're gonna make it up on the back end because the government has promised to take care of us. That's why they do it. There's always financial incentive. Don't ever forget, everything that happens around money. All right. Money is always going to be the lifeblood of foreign policy. It's money. Is the government going to be able to make money and control whatever natural resources that a region has? That's what this all goes back to. Follow the money, ladies and gentlemen. All right. That's how it works. Speaking of that, have you heard the news that AOC will not endorse Biden in 2024 presidential election? You shouldn't be surprised. I've been telling you for weeks now, months, even years, that there's infighting between the left and the right. The left want to bring the whole system down and totally, destroy the US, collapse it from within, while the right want to fix the economy and rescue Americans from disaster. And they don't care if it means printing, quadrillions of dollars. They will do whatever it takes to keep the nation afloat and from falling. That is the war that is raging right now. Make no mistake about it. This is where we are. This is happening. Okay. Then you have another issue that's going on, and that's with the global economy. You see, the reason why things are going the way they're going is because the left right now is in power. So they're able to push their agendas through with little to no resistance from the right, because the right is not in positions of power anymore. And so now you have infighting between the left as well. The left doesn't, you got people now in the left that are saying, we realize that what we are, what the true agenda is evil, and we don't want any more parts of it. So they're starting to have a breakdown within their own party as well. Another issue that they are trying to keep from the American people, well, check this out. A survey of corporate financial officers found that 100% of them expect the recession to start in the months ahead. Now, and as well as I do, you can't get, people to agree on what to have for lunch. So how are you going to get them to agree on, things that matter? All right. Well, there seems to be consensus. All right. Now, I have to say that if you just rely on the mainstream media, you won't get it. All right. Because they're going to do everything in their power to deceive you. We live in a culture of deceit. Okay. They want to have you run in one direction and not even look in the other direction. That's just what they do. So you can't really trust the print media, and you really can't trust the mainstream media. But we can't ignore that a downturn, if not a full-on economic depression, is clear in the transportation world. While the rest of the economy debates whether things are that bad, it's really been clear for months to logistics providers that the situation has worsened, and the velocity of that change is still stunning. The cost to move a container from Asia to a major port in North America or Europe has sunk by 23% since the beginning of this year, according to maritime research firm Drury. Spot rates have plummeted even faster. Marketplace freights said rates from China to West Coast are down 38% month over month. FreightWaves forecast this week that ocean shipping volumes will drop off a cliff by this summer based on slumping bookings out of China. Meanwhile, the most absurd housing bubble in the history of the United States is clearly starting to burst. Compared to a year ago, mortgage applications were down a whopping 21% last week alone. This just keeps getting worse. Applications for mortgages to purchase a home dropped 7% for the week, and were down 21% from a year ago. The Mortgage Bankers Association reported an indicator of future home sales. Potential home buyers try to get pre-approved for a mortgage, lock in a mortgage rate, and then start house hunting. Mortgage rates have soared this year, and home prices have soared for years to ridiculous levels, causing layers and layers upon layers potential buyers to abandon the real estate market amid worsening affordability challenges, as the MBA called it. On top of everything else, jobless claims just shot up to their highest level in almost 6 months. The number of Americans filing for unemployment benefits unexpectedly jumped last week, spiking to the highest level since mid January, and a sign that the hot labor market could be starting to cool. Figures released Thursday by the Labor Department show that applications for the week ended June the 4th rose to 229,000 from an upwardly revised 202,000 a week earlier, missing the 210,000 forecast by Refinitiv analyst. It marked the highest and biggest 1 week increase since last July. The 4 week average of new claims, which smooths volatility in the weekly figures, also increased slightly to 215,000 last week. Again, an ongoing situation. But even though all these numbers clearly indicate that a recession is coming, a potential recession is not the number one economic concern for most Americans. That is because the worst inflation crisis in modern American history is hitting everyone extremely hard. Like I showed you in the market quotes this morning, there is no escape. According to a 538 LPO SOS poll that was just released, 52% of Americans believe that inflation is the most important issue facing the country right now. That's because with inflation, you know what happens with inflation. It leads to hyperinflation. At this point, the answer to what Americans are most worried about is pretty straightforward, and that's inflation. So if the polls are correct, 52% of Americans said the most important issue facing the country was inflation. When asked Americans this question in a variety of ways, but regardless of how it was asked, the top answer was always the same, and that is inflation. Other surveys have come up with similar results. For example, just check out the numbers from the Pew Research Center, and these are quite whopping. 7 in 10 Americans view inflation as a very big problem for the country, followed by the affordability of healthcare, 55%, and violent crime, 54%. About half say gun violence and the federal budget deficit are very big problems, 51% each, according to a Pew Research Center survey conducted April 25th, May the 1st, among 5,074 U.S. adults. Inflation is something that the American people can see on a daily basis. On Thursday, the average price of a gallon of gas in the United States hit $5 a gallon for the first time ever. $5 a gallon for the first time ever in the United States. Experts are warning that it will soon cross the $6 threshold. The grocery store is another place where everyone can clearly see the rampant inflation that is happening. A single shopping cart of food can easily cost $300 these days, and that is absolutely insane. When just 20 years ago, that same cart could have been anywhere from $50 to $100. So you're looking at a 300% increase just in a cart of groceries. Unfortunately, to get even worse over the next year. The Federal Reserve, the Biden administration, and Wall Street's economists are confident that inflation will be brought down over the coming year. The American public disagrees. 2/3 of Americans say they expect inflation to get worse over the next year, according to a poll conducted by the Washington Post and George Mason University's Schar School of Policy and Government. Some even have been warning for years that the decisions that our leaders were making would destroy the stability of the US dollar. Here. And most people who have been warning and realizing that the rapidly growing long-term economic problems would eventually result in a meltdown of epic proportions, well, now that meltdown has begun. Could the U.S. fate have been very different if their leadership would have chosen a much different path while there was still a chance? Well, we'll never know because now it's too late. And the pain that is ahead is going to be greater than many Americans will be able to handle. These are facts that you cannot run away from. You can't. You can't. And now here's the thing though. The young people that are here are the ones that are going to suffer the most. Okay? Because they don't really have a frame of reference. Those that were born after 2000, they don't really know anything of the old world. They have no inkling of the old world. All they know is the world we currently live in with all of its technology and all of its glamour. But this is really going to hurt the young people. They don't remember life without the internet. They don't remember a life without smartphones. They don't remember that kind of life. They just don't, they have no frame of reference. Now, you've heard comparisons being drawn, to the Great Depression. And I believe that frame of reference is off. All right? Because when you really look back at these things, you'll realize that everything that you hear when they warn about something is lowballing it. They really are. They're lowballing it because they know that the reality is even graver. It's even more scary. So they have to try to downplay it as best they can because they don't want to cause an all-out panic. But unfortunately, that may be too little too late. Because you have to look at all the different things that are happening. Now, one of my concerns has always been, the country dying, death by 1,000 cuts, meaning that I warned you that I believe that so many things were going to be happening simultaneously that, they wouldn't be able to put out all the fires, so to speak, at the same time because you would be stretched thin. If there's a category 4 or 5 fire happening down the street, and then a block away from there's a 3-alarm fire, what do you do? So that's what's happening right now. We have 3 and 4 alarm fires happening across Gotham, and Batman cannot respond to all of them simultaneously. Batman is being stretched thin. Batman needs help. Even Robin is exhausted helping Batman. The two of them cannot save Gotham together. They need help. And guess what? Even if they had help, even if the Fantastic Four joined and helped them, even if the Hall of Justice was able to convince the Legion of Doom to help them, and it was in their best interest to help, that still wouldn't change a thing because it's far too little, far too late. And there is a such thing as getting to a point of no return. And unfortunately, that's what it appears to be happening even as we speak. So, what can we really expect? How bad are things currently, and how bad can it really get? Well, let's take a look. Let's do a little, not a deep dive, but let's just take a look at some things. Okay, so this is for the benefit of the millennials, those born after 2000. So if you were born in the year 2000, that would make you 22 years old. All right, so all you've ever known is this current world, this technology world. You don't remember the industrial age because most of us that you relate to and call boomers, which really are not boomers, baby boomers were born, back in the 1940s, but all the way up to I think 1960, like 1942 to 1960 are the original baby boomers. But anyone born between 1960 and 19 in the 1970s up to 1980, I would say that's a different generation. That's anyone born from between 1960 and 1980. Those are those born at the back end of the industrial age. So those of us in that category, we do remember what the old world was like before smartphones, before the internet, before social media. We remember the days of rotary dial phones and phone booths, things of that nature. We remember that. But those born in 2000, born after the millennium, have no reference for that, except for when they watch old movies or what have you. But they have no reference to those things. They don't understand those things. They weren't there. Just like when we watch old black and white movies of the Little Rascals, or Charlie Chaplin, we can appreciate when we watch those things and laugh, but we really can't truly appreciate it like someone who was alive when those things were being recorded. They can truly appreciate it because they were there. They have points of reference and nostalgia. But unless you were there, you don't really understand it on that same level. Again, you can appreciate it, but can you really understand it? And that's the issue. Now, we haven't seen anything like this in decades, to be honest, okay? Energy prices are soaring to unprecedented heights. $5 a gallon gas was something that was always talked about or even threatened, but we knew that it would never happen. I mean, you got to remember, in our lifetime, those born between 1960 and 1980, we remember gas being 89 cents a gallon. All right. That's a long cry from $5 a gallon. So you're looking at a 500% increase, 500% increase in a gallon of gas. That's ridiculous. Rampant inflation is out of control all over the planet. And it has been for some time, if you really want to break it down. You see, economic activity is slowing down everywhere that you can look at. Some are comparing this current crisis to the stagflation of the 1970s, but it's believed that it's far too optimistic of an assessment. Just about everyone can see that economic conditions are rapidly deteriorating, and there's a tremendous amount of alarm about what the months ahead will bring. That's a good question. Let me just pause here and just say what's up to all of my people in the live chat. What up, DJ Knight? What up, my man Dirt? What up, Gaia? What up, Duddy? What up, Prophecy Guy and Braveheart 22 and Dog Speak? And what up, Nelson? You make a very good point. That's a good question, Nelson. Nelson is saying, where is the money going once it leaves the bond market? That's a good question. All right, we can even say right now, where is the money going right now? If everything is crashing, where is the money really going? Where are people just going into cash? It would feel that way with the US dollar index being up this morning. You would think that that's pretty much where people are going. Everyone's going into cash. All right, because fear is alive and well. You know, it does make you wonder. And those are good questions and very fair comparisons to be making. Where does it go from here? What happens? I don't know. That's a good question. I would say that they're going in cash because the old school safe havens of bonds and precious metals is not working. It's not working at all. At all. According to a brand new Wall Street Journal NORC survey that was just released, the percentage of Americans that believe that the state of the U.S. economy is poor or not so good is 83 times larger than the percentage of Americans that believe that the state of the U.S. economy is excellent. A severe pessimism grips the U.S. economy, and Americans report the highest level of dissatisfaction with their financial situation in at least half a century. Poll results released Monday show 83% of Americans describe the state of the economy as poor or not so good, according to a Wall Street Journal NORC poll. Only 1% describe the economy as excellent. Only 1%. 1%. The same survey found that the percentage of Americans that are not at all satisfied with their current financial condition is the highest in at least 50 years. Ouch. Ouch. 35% said they are not at all satisfied with their financial condition. The highest level of dissatisfaction with the NORC began asking the question every few years starting in 1972. So they've been asking the question since 1972. That should be eye-opening for a lot of you. 63% of Americans say they are extremely or very concerned about the price of gas. 54% say they are extremely or very concerned about the impact of high grocery prices on their household's financial situation. Just 13% say they are not very or not at all concerned about gas prices, and 19% about grocery prices. In other words, this is the gloomiest that Americans have been about their own personal finances in at least 5 decades, 50 years. Wow. That should tell you something, that regardless of what they're saying in the mainstream media, the reality for the man on the street is saying something very different. One of the big reasons why people feel this way is because the price of just about everything is going up. In particular, the price of gasoline has been making national headlines just about every day since it broke $5 per gallon for the nation's average. And some people say this is just the beginning. They believe that we're going to break $6 a gallon. Come on, man. Think about that. The head of a commodity trading giant, Trafigura, just warned that the price of oil could actually make a parabolic move in the months ahead. Needless to say, energy prices have a domino effect throughout the entire economy. When commentator Anthony B. Sanders contacted moving companies about his coming move out of state, he could hardly believe the quotes that he was given. As I line up my move from Fairfax, Virginia to Columbus, Ohio, I'm getting a variety of quotes from moving companies. And wow, the cost of moving using a national moving company for a 4-bedroom house is $15,000 to $20,500. That includes international, North American, and beacons. One of the reasons for the high cost of moving is the massive increase in diesel fuel used for trucking. That's right, diesel fuel is already at $6 a gallon. Diesel fuel under Biden has risen 117%. And since it was revealed that natural gas often is used for electric charging stations, and nat gas is up 281% under Biden, could you imagine paying $20,000 to move from Virginia to Ohio? Think about that. In the old days, you could purchase your own new vehicle for that much money. In this crazy environment, some companies are attempting to hide inflation by shrinking their package sizes. Let's talk about that for a minute. Joining the parade of downsized products is cereal stalwart Honey Bunches of Oats, which has seen the weight of its standard box previously at 14.5 ounces lessened to 12 ounces, a reduction of roughly 17%, the UK paper said. Angel Soft toilet paper has also reduced its size from 425 sheets per roll to 320, while Bounty paper towels have cut their rolls from 165 sheets per roll to 147 last year. Gatorade has also cut its bottle size from 32 ounces to 28 ounces. Do they actually believe that we will not notice that the packages have changed? This is called shrinkflation. Shrinkflation is when you're expected to pay the same amount of money and you're getting less for that money. This is shrinkflation. And it's not just happening in the United States. At this point, this is taking place all over the world. In the US, a small box of Kleenex now has 60 tissues. A few months ago, it had 65. Chobani Flips yogurts have shrunk from 5.3 ounces to 4.5 ounces. In the UK, Nestle slimmed down its Nescafe Azera Americano coffee tins from 100 grams to 90 grams. In India, a bar of Vim dish soap has shrunk from 155 grams to 135 grams. Our standard of living is falling with each passing day as well, and that process is only going to accelerate during the second half of 2022. In a desperate attempt to keep living the way they always have, many Americans are turning their credit cards at an alarming rate. Needless to say, that is only a short-term solution. At the same time, overall economic activity continues to slow down. A closely followed measurement from the Atlanta Federal Reserve Bank suggests the economy could be headed for a second quarter decline in gross domestic product, the broadest measure of goods and services produced in a country. The GDP Now tracker shows the economy grew at an annualized pace of just 0.9% in the spring, a steep decline from its previous estimate of 1.3% on June the 1st. If U.S. GDP is actually negative for the second quarter, that will be 2 quarters in a row, and that will mean that we are officially in a recession right now. But what are we heading into in 2023 and beyond is not going to be just a recession. Ultimately, we're heading into a sort of nightmare scenario that many have been warning about for quite some time. Let that sink in. We are on a very scary trajectory, ladies and gentlemen. You know it's bad when even the elite are openly admitting that America is facing an absolutely enormous economic crisis. Yes, the elite are actually coming out. Not too long ago, the elite were trying to put a happy face on our growing economic disaster. It was obvious that things were trending in a very alarming direction, but they kept assuring us that any bumps in the road were just temporary and that a new golden age of prosperity was just around the corner. Now, to be fair, okay, they this kind of cheerleading was representative by the right because they actually do sincerely want to see a recovery. They don't want implosion. Don't get it twisted, though. They still want a new world order. They just don't want anyone to suffer in order to get it. The left say, forget that. Scorched earth, bring it down. Okay? Even though it was obvious that things were trending in a very alarming direction, they just kept assuring us that, hey, we're going to be all right. Needless to say, they were dead wrong. And that's because the left are in positions of power to actually push their agenda along and frustrate the plans on the right. And now some of them are publicly admitting that the truth is in plain sight. For example, JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon publicly stated that an economic hurricane is rapidly approaching. Jamie Dimon is no meteorologist, but the JP Morgan Chase CEO is predicting an economic hurricane caused by the war in Ukraine, rising inflation pressures, and interest rate hikes from the Federal Reserve. All of this on the back of shutting down the global economy in 2020. So all this stems from that. Right now, it's kind of sunny. Things are doing fine. Everyone thinks the Fed can handle this, Diamond said at a Bernstein conference. That hurricane is right out there down the road coming our way. JP Morgan Chase is one of the most important financial institutions in the entire world. So there's a really big thing for Diamond to make a statement like this. Of course, he is right on target. An economic hurricane is coming and is going to be far more horrible than most Americans could possibly imagine right now. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen also just said something that is making a lot of headlines. Last year, she insisted that high inflation would just be transitory. But now she is openly admitting that she was wrong. Quote, I was wrong then about the path that inflation would take. As I mentioned, there have been unanticipated and large shocks to the economy that I, at the time, didn't fully understand. So now she's openly admitting incompetence. That's basically what she's saying. She's saying, I didn't understand. Now, let's get this straight. Now, this is not some just, gray-haired old woman. All right, this is not just little grandma or auntie. All right, she's no fool. So let's not get it twisted. She knows exactly what she's talking about. So why would you believe that she will play the ignorant bit all of a sudden? Oh, I'm just a little old lady. I didn't know. I didn't fully understand. Doesn't that sound familiar? Is that reminiscent of the NASDAQ bubble 2000 investors? I didn't understand those investments. I was tricked. I didn't understand what I was doing. 1 second. We need to take a quick station break. Just 1 second. I do apologize for that. Too bad I don't have any elevator music to play for you guys when I have those interruptions. Okay, so where were we? So again, the average Joe on the street, you would expect and anticipate for them to say, I didn't understand those complicated and sophisticated investments that my broker put me into. I didn't know what I was doing. But Janet Yellen doesn't get that pass. I'm sorry. This is the former head of the Federal Reserve, now Treasury Secretary. You are not just some innocent bystander, some gray-headed old lady who didn't understand these sophisticated investments. No, you are an in-the-know person. You're at the top of the food chain. Oh, you understood exactly what's happening in the economy. Remember, this is the same Federal Reserve that when Peter Schiff was warning them back in the early 2000s about the trouble that was on the horizon, and he was making his rounds on CNBC. He was always on there, seemed like every day, and he was sounding the alarms. He was saying, "You don't understand. You're going to create an Armageddon situation, and you're not going to be able to fix it. You're going to really destroy the country. You need to stop what you're doing." And they laughed at him. I remember all these different economists that they would bring on in these panel discussions, and they would laugh at him. The two most laughed at people that were on CNBC was Peter Schiff and Reggie Middleton. They would always laugh when those men came on. And then when they would be proven right, they wouldn't even talk. They wouldn't even have the decency to say, "You know what, man, Peter, you was right. You was right." Or, "You know what, Reggie, you was right, man. You was right." No, they would just pretend as if the conversations never happened. And they would just say, "No one saw this coming." They would have the nerve and the gall to say, "Unfortunately, no one saw this coming." That was the talking point. That was the narrative. No one could possibly foreshadow this or foresee this. It was unforeseeable, unknowable. Therefore, no one is at fault. The Federal Reserve never takes responsibility for any of its actions, just like the governments of the world today are not taking responsibility for shutting down the global economy in 2020, thinking that there would be no long-term consequences for their actions. Well, no one could have known, and so they blame the pandemic. The last time I checked, a virus is not a person. A virus doesn't walk around outside with arms and legs and set in positions of authority in government. The last time I checked, the virus didn't push a button or hack into the software programs that run our financial system and say, "I'm putting a stop to all of this." Don't blame something small as a paramecium and say, "Well, it's because of the quote unquote pandemic. It's because of this virus, this pesky virus. He's been a thorn in my side forever. Every time I want to do something good for the country, he turns on his computer and hacks. And, he hacked my account and he pushed the button to sell everything and he made the stock market fall. And he's to blame for all this." So why aren't we putting this virus on trial? Isn't this virus like the biggest mass murderer in history? Isn't this virus the most dangerous virus in all of humanity that ever existed? Isn't this virus more pesky than anything on earth? If you had to choose right now to get rid of all guns or get rid of this virus, which would you choose? If you had your choice to make that wish, choose to eliminate this mass murdering villainous virus who not only makes people sick and kills them, but also destroys global economies. Would you rather get rid of him, or would you rather get rid of firearms? I can tell. I tell you what the answer would be. I already know what the answer is. The answer is give us Barabbas. That's what the people would say. Give us Barabbas. Barabbas is the guns. They would say, let's take away guns. Let's take away firearms from the American public. And they would let Mr. Virus go free. Release Mr. Virus. He's done no harm here. That's what they would say. Give us Barabbas. And that's what they're saying right now. Give us Barabbas. No one is saying and holding anyone accountable. The Federal Reserve has been wrong continually. I'm trying to think who's wrong. Who's wronger? You guys, let's do a quick poll right now. Who is the most wrong? The Federal Reserve or Jim Cramer? Who is more wrong? Let's take a poll right now. What say you in the live chats? What say you? Who's wronger? Who has been more wrong? Jim Cramer or the Federal Reserve? Regardless of who the head was. Going all the way back to the days of Greenspan. Who has been the most wrong? The Federal Reserve or Jim Cramer? Just curious. It's out of curiosity. Just out of curiosity. And by the way, I got nothing but mad love for Jim Cramer, believe it or not. He's not a traitor. But believe it or not, contrary to popular belief, he actually does know what he's talking about. But you know, he's entertainment. He does things for entertainment. But don't get it twisted. The man knows what he's doing. He's not a fool. All right. He knows exactly what he's doing. And I do still watch his show from time to time because it's very entertaining. And sometimes he does give you some pretty insightful fundamental analysis on certain stocks, things of that nature. But he's not a trader. So don't get it twisted. So I'm just messing with you, Jim Cramer. All right. Someone says Jim Cramer's more wrong. Really? Oh, that's interesting. Okay. All right. Anyone else? Anybody else? What do you think? Okay. So then, Duddy says that the Fed is more wrong. Privacy Guy says Jim Cramer. Okay. So we're tied. One each. We got one vote for the Fed and one vote for Jim. Okay. 2 votes for Jim now. Okay, so all right. I like how Kyle put it. All right, Kyle, let's examine that. Kyle says Jim, of course. We know the Fed is evil. Jim deceives consciously. That's a good point. That's a good way to look at it. That's a good way to look at it. That is a good way to look at it. 100%. Interest rates will get to 20%. Oh, I hope not, Nelson. Good grief. But again, you know, back on topic, you know, when you have the elites coming out and saying, you know what, we were wrong, that's saying something. But the question is, why would they do that? Okay. Yeah, we give Grandma Janet, we give her one little brownie point for admitting her mistake publicly. But many in Washington will never do such a thing under any circumstances. At this point, it should be obvious to everyone that we are in the midst of an absolutely horrifying inflation crisis. The average price of gas now is $5, people. $5 a gallon. Come on, man. Come on. You got to admit that's nuts. So where do we go from here? Well, here's another interesting note for you. Did you know that filling a tractor daily now costs farmers $1,000, which is twice what it was a year ago? Fertilizer prices are out of control. They say they can't get new tractors, new combines. They can't get new tillage equipment. So they have to keep running older equipment, and they can't get parts for that. So the whole comedy of errors is multiplying on top of itself here. When costs go up for farmers, they inevitably get passed on to the consumers. I mean, that's just obvious. And we've been seeing food prices spike dramatically. Just look at the numbers from April of 2022 alone. Food grains, including corn and wheat, were up 2.8% for the month and 45% compared with a year ago. Feed grain prices increased 7.8% from the prior month and 33% from a year ago. The poultry and egg index jumped 22% from March and 94% from a year earlier. The April market egg price was at $2.21 per dozen. And it's 81 cents higher than March and $1.64 higher than April of 2021. Good grief. The price of chickens raised for meat at $1.05 per pound is 15.3 cents higher than March and 49.7 cents higher than a year ago. At 95.3 cents per pound, the April turkey price is 2.5 cents higher than the previous month and 18.5 cents higher than April of 2021. Milk prices climbed 4.12% in April and are up 47% compared with a year earlier. In the entire history of the United States, we have never seen anything like this ever. Ever. In fact, one prominent Texas farmer is warning that food prices are going to double. People don't realize what's fixing to hit them, said Texas farmer Lynn Bugsy Allen. They think it's tough right now. You give it until October, food prices are going to double. I mean, they're saying by October, food prices are going to double. Good grief. Is there no end in sight? Is there none? All right. Let me pause there for a second. I need to check on the crypto. One quick second here. To be or not to be? That is the question. All right. So I'm making a trading decision as we are live here. Do I take the money and run, or are we going to go down even further? I don't know. Bitcoin, we're up 24.77% on the short. On Bitcoin, up 44.54% on the Ethereum. We're trading near the lows of the session. What to do? Do we get out and take the money and run and book this 25% gain in Bitcoin and 44% gain in Ethereum? What to do? Oh, what should a trader do? You know what? I'm going to go ahead and book it. Why not? Let's book it. Let's just go ahead and get out. Let's take the money and run. You know, why not? Why not? Let's book it. No sense of being greedy. I'll take what the market is giving me. Let's just go ahead and book these ridiculous gains right now. Let's go ahead and book it. Yeah, there you go. Might as well. Just go ahead and book it. And then I'll cancel these other orders. Why not? We'll do it live. All right, so there you have it. You'll never go broke taking profits, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to show you that so that you can see, again, we eat our own cooking here. You know, this is real money, real accounts, not paper trading or any of that foolishness. We do real stuff, real time, real markets. That's just how we're built. All right, this is what we do. We do this on a daily basis. We don't play games over here. And again, you can do the same thing. All of our post waivers know that what we do here is we speak truth. We don't play. All right, so the entire history of the nation has never seen anything crazy like this. All right, but I still think people don't realize what's fixing to hit them. And that's a direct quote from Texas farmer Lynn Bugsy Allen. They think it's tough now. You give it until October, food prices are going to double. I don't think that the average person can withstand food prices doubling, because then that means your grocery bill will also double. Can you imagine that? Though, can you imagine what it will do to the United States if food prices double from their already extremely inflated levels? People will go absolutely bananas. They will have to put the National Guard out in front of the grocery stores. Seriously, I mean, it's not funny. But now we've talked about facts, we've talked about truth. So before we end this broadcast, let's get into a little bit of the conspiratorialness. Everyone, instead of rolling up your sleeves and putting on your big boy pants and your big girl pants, nah, leave them off. Walk around naked. You don't need them. Instead, we're going to put on our tinfoil hats. That's what we're going to do. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not afraid to deal with conspiracies or investigate things. We like to look down the rabbit hole and see exactly what's going on. So let's do that. And then you can come to your own conclusions to what you think. But let's look at some facts. Now, I've talked about it here before, about the accidental fires that continue to happen at food processing facilities all over the United States. You guys can correct me if I get this phrase wrong, but it goes something like this. The first time is a coincidence. The second time is a pattern. And then the third time is enemy action. Am I right? Am I right? Is that the gist of it? Is that just about the gist of it? Well, let's look at this again. Let's revisit this. So we're supposed to believe that what we are witnessing is just one tragic accident after another. We aren't supposed to see any sort of pattern. We aren't supposed to ask any questions. Is that it? Well, we know that about a month ago, there were 16, not one, not two, not three, not 10, but 16 mysterious fires that have happened at important food industry facilities in the United States since the start of 2022. Unfortunately, this trend has continued since that time. In fact, there have been more accidental fires in recent days, and I believe that the American people deserve some answers. What about the massive fire that erupted at a commercial egg farm in Minnesota? We're being told that the structure that burnt down contained tens of thousands of chickens. Massive flames burned down a barn with tens of thousands of chickens in Wright County. The fire started late Saturday night at Forsman Farms in Howard Lake, causing major damage. Like so many of the other mysterious fires that have been reported on, this fire grew to an absolutely enormous size very, very rapidly. The Tribbish family thought they would spend Saturday night around their bonfire, but just after 10 p.m., they noticed massive flames across the field at Forsman Farms. It was unbelievable how quickly it grew. It was insane. Andy Tribbish said, it was the whole sky. It was quite large. We're being told that there was no foul play. Really? Just another senseless accident. Nothing to see here. Of course, the same explanation is being given for a dramatic fireball that burned a grain silo to the ground in Washington State just prior to that. A spectacular fire demolished Emily Seed and Grain Company in Proser and left one person with burns. A smoldering pile of twisted metal and charred lumber was all that remained Thursday morning after firefighters battled the blaze in downtown Proser all night. A few firefighters remained at the scene to monitor the fire. They are assuring us that this sort of thing happens all the time. So that's the narrative. This happens all the time. So don't try to apply common sense to any of this because that will just confuse you, you poor peasants. A few days before that tragedy in Washington state, 43 rail cars that were carrying much needed potash just so happened to derail in Alberta. About 43 westbound Canadian Pacific CP rail cars carrying potash derailed northeast of Fort Macleod, Alta. Sunday morning, RMPC say. At 8:15 a.m., Mounties responded to a train derailment between Range Roads 251 and 252 near Highway 3. Fire crews and CP Rail also came to the scene, according to police. So, what are Canadian authorities telling us about this incident? You guessed it. Apparently, it was just another, quote, accident. Nothing to see here. People are sure getting careless these days because accidents just keep happening time after time after time. And all this is taking place at a moment in history when we are being told that we're about to enter an absolutely horrifying global food crisis. During recent testimony in front of the UN Security Council, the CEO of Grow Intelligence warned that the lowest grain inventory levels the world has ever seen are starting to become even lower. So they're already microscopic, but now they're getting even lower than that. Really? Really? Minker said estimates from official government agencies from across the world show that wheat inventories are at 33% of annual consumption, but added that models created by Grow Intelligence show that the figure may actually be closer to 20%, a level not seen since 2007 and 2008. Do you remember 2008, the real estate crisis? It is important to note that the lowest grain inventory levels the world's ever seen are now occurring, while access to fertilizers is highly constrained. And drought in wheat growing regions around the world is the most extreme it's been in over 20 years. Similar inventory concerns also apply to corn and other grains. Stop right there. Now, we know that if we take a look at and examine famines that hit the world going all the way back thousands of years, a famine is something that occurs in a particular geographical location due to weather patterns and things of that nature. I have yet to see where there was a global famine like that. You can have drought in one state or two states or even three, but to have a drought, worldwide drought, that is incomprehensible. Worldwide drought, simultaneous worldwide drought. You know what that says to me? That the shadowy forces that control the behind the scenes government have been geoengineering their behinds off. And they are causing this situation to happen and blaming it on global warming, global cooling, carbon emissions, you name it. But we know it's them using those planes in the sky to terraform the planet. In other words, there isn't going to be enough food for everyone, ladies and gentlemen, on purpose. We're being told that 1/5 of the entire population of the globe could soon descend into poverty and hunger and starvation. For months, the specter of global hunger crisis has been looming. The war in Ukraine is a compounding factor blocking key value chains for food and fertilizer. Just as the world reckons with the impacts of the mean Mr. Virus. You know, Mr. Virus is wanted in just about every country. He can't fly commercially because he's on the no-fly list, and Interpol is looking for him as well. Add the pervasive effects of climate change to the mix, and the results in what the United Nations is calling a perfect storm that risk one-fifth of the global population, as many as 1.7 billion people falling into poverty and starvation. I'm not the one that's saying it. I'm not the one saying that one-fifth of the global population is heading into poverty and starvation and will soon be wiped off the face of the earth. It's the United Nations that is saying this. Of course, it is quite true that I've been warning you. As a matter of fact, excuse me, videos have been floating around the internet from these World Economic Forums. And they have been telling you everything that I tried to warn you about in 2016. If you have not already done so, you need to go here on YouTube and you need to watch the two documentaries I did. Just pull up the documentary playlist. You need to watch both of those documentaries. Yeah, they're long, but there's a lot of information I warn about, and I go very specific in detail. And everything that I detailed and outlined in 2016 has come to pass. Did you know that David Beasley, the head of the UN World Food Program, says that his organization is already taking food away from the hungry to feed the starving? So what is he going to do when countless millions are starving all over the planet? Global trends have been pushing us in this direction for years, but now the events of 2022 have greatly accelerated the development of the perfect storm that we are now facing. We're being told that things will be far worse by the end of 2022 than they are now. And you probably don't even want to hear about what the outlook for 2023 looks like. You can try to ignore this growing crisis if you want, but it's not going away. A nightmare of epic proportions has already begun, and unfortunately, this is a nightmare that is not going to end anytime soon. So if you think you can just wake up from this, it's not going to happen. It's not going away. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been warned. All right. I've taken the time out to come on here and tell you what's going on. Show you the truth. I'm hoping that people are finally learning how to think and reason for themselves and not just rely on the lies of mainstream media, because that's exactly what they are, lies. They're not telling you the truth. They don't want you to come to the knowledge of the truth. They want you deceived. They want you ignorant, because that is how they control you. When you are ignorant, you are easily controlled. When you are ignorant, you are easily manipulated. And that's what this has all come down to. All right. So think about what we talked about here today. And if you've been sitting on the fence, if you've been making excuses, that stops today. You need to head on over to pulsewavetrading.com. Don't rely on government stimulus checks to get by. You need to take what little you do have and learn how to grow it. If you're a prepper and you have been learning to grow food, how can you not also likewise grow your finances? That doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Everything we do in this world costs something. You need money, and you're going to need a lot more of it in the months to come. How are you going to grow that money? Well, I'm buying stocks. Well, stocks are getting demolished today. Well, I got money in bonds. Well, bond prices are getting demolished today. Well, I got precious metals. Well, gold is now down $41 as we speak. It just dropped. The bottom just fell out of the market. Well, I got some crypto. Well, Bitcoin's down 5,330 points right now. So what are you going to do? Continue to make excuses and sit on the fence and watch your money evaporate before your eyes? Or are you going to get off your behind and do something about it? And go on over to pulsewavetrading.com and sign up for these Pulsewave reports so you can learn how to grow an income stream independent of government stimulus checks. I don't know how much longer we're going to even be allowed to be on the air. So I'm beating the drum as loud as I can. I'm trying to help as many people as I can to avoid starvation. It doesn't matter how little you have, what little you have right now. You can still grow that little bit. But it's up to you to do it. No one can do this for you. Anyone can learn to do it. I made it stupid simple. If you know how to read and follow instructions, you can do this. I just showed you this morning. I get that question a lot. What kind of returns do you think are possible? I just showed you this morning. What kind of returns are possible? So stop making excuses. Get off your behind. Go to pulsewavetrading.com and start building the income that you're going to need. You heard it this morning. Your grocery bill is about to double. They're expecting food prices to go up another 100% just in the next couple of months. You don't want to be those people out there looting and robbing and stealing just to eat. You don't want to be one of the people that can't stand in line waiting for your turn to get in the grocery store so you can buy food that is now 100% more expensive than it was just a day ago. You want to be that person that no matter how expensive it goes, you can be one of the lucky ones that can go in there and shop and buy the goods that you need. All right? No matter what happens, things are still going to cost something. Food is still going to cost money. Ammunition for your firearms is going to cost money. Everything is going to cost. Cost is not going to go away. It's just going to be unreachable for a majority of people listening to this broadcast this morning. All right, that's all I got. That's all we got time for today. If you are already a subscriber to the Pulsewave Reports, you know what you need to do. You never go broke taking profits. Use this Black Monday scenario to cash out, and you can always get back in the market. All right. So with that being said, smash that like button. And remember, bulls make money, bears make money, and pigs in this market get slaughtered. So remember to take what you can and give nothing back. And I'm out. Peace.